The rain fell in thin silver lines over the city, blurring the lights of glass towers and luxury cars into trembling reflections. Under a broken street lamp near the hospital, a boy sat with his knees pulled to his chest. He couldn't have been more than 12. His clothes were too big, worn thin at the elbows, and his shoes had lost their shape long ago. A small backpack lay beside him, holding everything he owned: a blanket, a half loaf of bread, and a dog-eared notebook filled with careful handwriting. His name was Eli. Eli didn't know the word billionaire, but he knew hunger, cold, and the sound of sirens at night. He knew how to listen, to the city, to people's footsteps, to the way pain and hope could sound almost the same if you listened closely. He also knew the hospital across the street, because it was warm, and sometimes kind nurses would give him leftover soup if he waited quietly near the back door. That night, Eli wasn't thinking about soup. He was watching the third-floor window where the lights never went off. Inside that room lay Noah Hale, 8 years old, son of Daniel Hale, one of the wealthiest men in the country. Daniel owned skyscrapers, shipping lines, and entire companies whose names were spoken with awe on financial news. He could buy almost anything. Almost. What he couldn't buy was a cure for his son. Noah had been sick for months. What started as faint fevers and tired eyes became something darker, something that made doctors lower their voices and avoid meeting Daniel's gaze. Specialists flew in from across the world. Machines hummed day and night. Charts filled with numbers Daniel didn't understand but pretended to. One by one, the doctors said the same thing, gently at first, then more firmly. "We've done everything we can." Daniel sat beside his son's bed, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hands trembling as he held Noah's small fingers. Noah's breathing was shallow now. His skin looked almost translucent under the hospital lights. "Dad," Noah whispered once, barely audible. "It's okay if I sleep." Daniel felt his heart crack open. He leaned close, forcing a smile that felt like glass cutting into his face. "No," he said softly. "You're not going anywhere. I'm right here." But when the doctors left the room that night, their faces told him the truth. They had lost hope. Across the street, Eli pressed his forehead to the cold glass of the hospital window. He had learned which rooms were children's rooms by the drawings taped inside. Crayon sons, crooked houses, stick-figure families. Noah's room had a paper airplane taped to the corner. Eli watched the boy inside struggle to breathe, watched the man in the suit bow his head as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. Eli didn't know their names, but he knew that look. He had seen it in his mother's eyes once, years ago, before she never woke up. Eli's chest tightened. He reached into his backpack and pulled out his notebook. Inside were drawings and notes, things he had learned on the streets, things his grandmother had taught him before she passed. She had believed in old remedies, in listening to the body, in hope when science failed. One page was marked with a folded corner. Breathing fever. Blue lips. Weak pulse. Warmth. Steam. The leaf mixture. Eli stared at the page, then back at the window. "It won't work," he whispered to himself. "It's just a story." But his feet were already moving. Eli slipped into the hospital through the side entrance he knew well. The night guard was half asleep, distracted by his phone. Eli kept his head down, heart pounding like a drum in his ears. He found the stairs. He climbed to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled of antiseptic and quiet fear. Machines beeped softly behind closed doors. Eli stood outside Noah's room, staring at the handle. He was just a homeless boy. No one would listen to him. He knew that. People had walked past him his entire life without seeing him at all. Still he knocked. Daniel looked up, startled. For a moment, anger flashed across his face. "Who are you?" he demanded. "You can't be here." Eli swallowed hard. His voice shook, but his eyes didn't. "I think I can help him," Eli said, pointing to Noah. Daniel laughed bitterly, a sound full of exhaustion and pain. "Help him," he snapped. "Doctors with 20 years of training can't help him. And you think you can?" Eli felt tears burn his eyes, but he didn't back away. "My grandma used to help sick kids when doctors couldn't," he said quietly. "She taught me some things. Please." "He doesn't have much time." Daniel's jaw clenched. Security had already been called in his mind. But then Noah coughed weakly, his small body trembling, and something inside Daniel broke. "What do you need?" Daniel asked hoarsely. Eli blinked, surprised. "Warm water," he said. "Clean cloths. And a permission." The nurse on duty protested, but Daniel overruled her. At that point rules felt meaningless. Eli worked carefully, gently, his small hands steady. He asked for steam, for warmth, for a mixture made from leaves he had gathered earlier and kept dried in his bag. "This is insane," the nurse muttered. Eli didn't respond. He was listening to Noah's breathing, to the rhythm of the machines, to something deeper. He placed the warm cloth over Noah's chest and whispered words his grandmother used to say. They weren't magic. They were comfort. Minutes passed. Then something changed. Noah's breathing eased just slightly. The blue tinge around his lips faded a little. The machine's beeping slowed into a steadier rhythm. The nurse froze. Daniel leaned forward, afraid to breathe. "What did you do?" he whispered. Eli shook his head. "I didn't do anything," he said. "His body is fighting. He just needed help remembering how." Doctors rushed in. Tests were run again. The room filled with controlled chaos. And for the first time in weeks, the numbers improved. By morning, Noah was stable. Not cured, not safe, but alive. Doctors called it a temporary, unexplained improvement. Daniel called it a miracle. He found Eli sitting in the hallway, fast asleep against the wall. His backpack clutched to his chest. Daniel studied the boy. His thin arms, the dirt under his fingernails, the quiet courage written into every line of his face. When Eli woke, he panicked. "I'm sorry," he blurted out. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I can go." Daniel held up a hand. "Stay," he said gently. "Please." They talked for hours. Eli told him about the streets, about his grandmother, about the notebook. Daniel listened, really listened, for the first time in years. "You saved my son," Daniel said finally. Eli shook his head. "I just helped," he replied. "Anyone could have." Daniel knew that wasn't true. Noah recovered slowly, but he recovered. Weeks later, he walked out of the hospital holding his father's hand, waving shyly at the nurses. Eli wasn't there. Daniel searched for him everywhere. Shelters, treats, soup kitchens. When he finally found Eli under the same broken street lamp, Daniel knelt in the rain without caring who saw him. "You don't belong out here," Daniel said softly. Eli looked up, guarded. "This is where I live." Daniel took a breath. "Come live with us," he said. "Not because you saved Noah. Because you're family now." Eli hesitated. Trust didn't come easily to boys like him. Noah stepped forward, smiling. "You promised to teach me how to draw airplanes," Noah said. Eli smiled back, small and unsure. "Okay," he said. Daniel didn't just take Eli home. He changed his entire life. He built shelters that felt like homes. He funded programs that listened to kids instead of fixing them. He sat on sidewalks and learned names. And Eli went to school. He slept in a warm bed. He kept his notebook, adding new pages. Not just remedies but dreams. Years later, when people asked Daniel Hale what his greatest investment had been, he never talked about money. He talked about a homeless boy who knocked on a hospital door when hope was gone, and reminded the world how to believe again. And every night, in a quiet room filled with paper airplanes taped to the walls, a billionaire's son slept peacefully, alive because someone the world had overlooked chose to care.